morning. I'm just making sure I have audio. Yes, I do. Corey Thorne, the spiritual healer. I am broadcasting through Be Live TV on Facebook and YouTube together. So, welcome to my morning lives. And this is an introduction to my Everyday Goddess Oracle cards. So, we're just going to let some people get in. And of course, I start to speak this part early because this is for the people watching the replay later. That's not just sitting waiting for me to wait for people to join in when they're watching replay. So good morning, Angela and Joanne. Good morning. Just now we're just waiting for some people to join in. Good morning, Lisa. And we just want to get some people in here before I start. And I just want to get up on my phone while we're waiting here to get some people into the room. Okay. So today we are working with, I'm trying to bring it up on my phone and it's not wanting to come up. Just this way I can see all the comments. It's hard for me to see all the comments when it's not showing. Oh, here we go. We have it. All right. Okay. Now we're in. So this is the introduction to my deck of Oracle cards. Every single morning I've been coming in for 45, well, today is 44 days that I have been introducing each and every card in order in my deck of the Everyday Goddess Oracle cards. And you can see the box cover on the back and on my back wall here, the pink, that's the box cover to the new decks. Hello, Daisy. And so they have an angel. They have an angel wings on the front, and then it says Goddess in the title. Well, that's kind of a little bit of the collective of me, is that I work a little bit of everything. And thus we also have a lot of beings within the cards. So there's a lot of energy in the cards. So each and every day I come in and I give a reading based on the card, and I'm still writing the book. So the book was scrapped for the deck. And so pre-sales are put off because I scrapped the book and I started over. And I start to rewrite because the messages that came with the cards were not, once they were fully created, it didn't match. And so I started to rewrite the deck. So they have their own little attitude. They have their own little energy. And I am going to bring up this morning the first card. And we're at card number 43. Tomorrow is the last day. Tomorrow we get down to card number 44, and I've been in 44 days today because there is a 0. So there is the number 0 in the deck. So we have 0 to 40 to 44 as the numbers, but it's 45 cards, right? That's how life works. And so today we're on card number 40, on card number 43. And this is Lumarian, and she is the universal light of love. And there's a lot of story that go with her. And she has a lot of why. And so this is the final, love this card. Me too, Lisa. I love this card. This card represents so much to me, and a lot that I discovered over time with this card. And so this is what it looked like even a few weeks ago. And now what you're seeing on the screen is the newest deck. This is the deck now that's the deck that's going to print. And the deck has changed so much. This is where they started. They started looking like this type of style. They were white, and then we changed, and then the design changed around the numbers, and then all these little corners came out. And now we finally nail it down. This is what we want the cards to look like. And the artist is Amelia Richard. She's an amazing artist who takes my sketches. I have books and books of sketches, and she takes what I channel through in a sketch and she creates it into something that looks like this. And then we add on to it as the cards get personality. So the cards really represent us and the attitudes that we have. And, we have a whole different attitude we had when we're 2, when we're 5, when we're 25. We change, we grow, we evolve. Good morning, Raina. And so when we start to allow ourselves to become our true selves, is that we start to see something different. And often I say I spent a lifetime in the hairdressing industry. And I've had a few lifetimes. I spent a lifetime in the hairdressing industry. I spent 30 years working in the beauty industry. I was an advanced esthetician. I was a master hair colorist. Like, there's nothing I have not done in that beauty world. And it used to really sadden my heart that even, women who had been in their 60s, 70s, still had these insecurities of not being in love with themselves. Or, I'd meet women that were like 80. And I remember having this client one time, and she was just, oh God, she was so amazing. She's passed on now. And even in her late 80s, she was like styling. And she loved herself, like loved herself, and she loved her lips and she loved her eyebrows. She had lip liner tattooed on, she had her eyebrows tattooed on, and she was just like this magical being to me. And she taught me so much through the time that I had her as a client about really, truly about love. And it wasn't just about the fact that she was confident in her looks. She taught me a whole lot about what universal love was, about what unconditional love was. And it was such an amazing journey. And she said, hanging on to hate, hanging on to that anger will age you. She said, what ages you is the toxins that you take in. And she said, and that's how you think. And she said, so if you don't think good thoughts, then you're going to be unhealthy. And it took years to get that. Right? It took years to finally to let that sink in, that all of that anger, all those people that you're still angry at years and years later, yeah, they don't really care. Hate to have to tell you, the only person that's being affected by the fact that you still got a hate on or an anger for somebody from 20, 30, 40 years ago is you, because they're not being impacted by the fact that you constantly have that hate in your heart, and their lives are not impacted. Yours is. And so you're the one who is taking the punishment for something that that person did, which they're long moved on, or they're on the other side. And so being able to let that go changes everything. So, good morning, everybody who's joining in. Good morning, Samuel and Ashley. Good morning. And everyone else who's watching, not commenting, good morning. I know you're there. I love that you're there, and I very much appreciate that you're here. And so when I look at Lumerian, I'm going to talk a little bit about, I'm like, duh, my lips are a little bit quivery on this one. I'm going to talk a little bit about the channel. So this card really came about she started out as the 0 card. So she started out as the wholeness card, and then she was going to be a number 1. And I called her golden, and, she was going to be golden. So in the beginning of this journey, each and every one of these cards represent the journey that I have been on my healing, right? Samuel, let me see what you're saying. Samuel, there before I get started here. Can you please check out my Facebook page and have a look at the Reverb project? It's about people and homelessness. They are doing it on Zoom tonight at 8 p.m. UK time, and you can purchase a ticket there. It's pay what you can. Thanks for your... Oh, wow, Samuel. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So if you actually want to share that link in here, Samuel, I'll be happy to share it for you as well. Because anything that we can do to be a support to humanity in those ways, I really would be honored to be able to share it for you. So, and to those people that take their time to create these projects and to put their time and effort into it, I'd love to be able to support those things. So yeah, Samuel, please feel free to please share it. So thank you. Good morning, Brenda and Marie. Good morning. My computer screen is so big that I can't even see it beyond the other screens. Like, I got to look around to see you guys. So I keep my phone up so I can actually see. You're welcome. You're welcome. And thank you for always being here. I'm honored. So, And so this card, when we go back into where this journey started for me, and this journey, so these messages may serve you this morning. I always say, stay till the end. You never know what you're getting out of this, whether you're male, female. And I have a lot of men that follow and that follow my work. And then they're like, well, how come the cards are all female? Well, because I'm a female. I'm woman, but we all have a feminine side and we all have a masculine side. And we all go through the same, we go through the same stories, but we all have our personal experience. Like we all have our own version of our stories, but we all have the same hurts. We all have the same, disconnect. We all have those things that are happening. So take my messages and turn it to the male version of it, and you got your truth, right? So you got something that helps you. You got your guidance, and and so when you look at these, when every one of these cards were created, this was all created from my journey. So when I made a big shift and I took a leap of faith and I left the town that I had been in for 20 years, I tried to hang on to my job. I was still trying to hang on to my career in the beauty industry, but I also had a full-time business with this work. I was traveling around Alberta. I was traveling back and forth to Newfoundland. Like there was so many things that I was doing. Plus I was writing books, creating cards. I was doing everything and still doing and I was doing a lot more lives at the time. It was just like an overpowering, and I was workshops, everything that you could possibly be doing. Plus I was still hairdressing and still doing like 8, 9 colors a day. And like it was crazy how much I was actually working at. Okay, we'll figure that one out after. Send me a message with it, maybe. If you can send me a message with it, and then I can help you out with that. Um, and so during that time, what I realized was that I had no gas left in my tank. I was empty. And by being empty was that I had given all of my love and all of my gifts and everything that I have out into the world. And I hadn't given anything to me. I was so wanting everyone else to be able to take this work and be able to take the healing, the love, and just be able to heal your lives and to do good things and to inspire. And so I was doing workshops, and I was teaching in the school, and I was doing all these things and harangue everybody on. I wanted everybody else. And I realized how depleted I had become, how empty I had become. And during that time, I found myself kind of collapsing down, and the bathtub became my saving grace. I took a leap of faith. I left town. I moved to the town the city I'm in now, which is Leduc. Um, and in this city that I'm in right now, I knew nobody at the time. I was here all by myself. My partner was still only, we were still just dating back then. And I was in this house, and the house seemed so big, and I was so afraid. And I was driving back and forth to my other town, which is like 3 hours away. And I would go back there at least 3 times a week, like constantly going back and forth. And just because I was so afraid, not fearful, not false evidence appearing real, I knew what it was like to lose everything. I knew what it was like, and I was in the middle of losing myself in such ways that my health was getting worse, my legs were giving out, and I finally had to just surrender. And it was my hours and time that I was, when I didn't know how I could get through the day and I couldn't even breathe anymore, that I would go to the bathtub. And what I discovered during my times of 3 hours in the bathtub and keep running the water and making it hot was that I was trying to escape life. I was trying to get out of life. I was so fucking done. I had nothing left to give, and I was still giving. So the energy, the beautiful beings out there that channel through me, they're unlimited. They have nothing but everything to give. Me, I'm one human being. And this one human being who had a neurological condition was getting worse because I didn't take care of this. And on top of that, I was also trying to get healthy. So I'm working out, you're doing, right? I'm working out, I'm trying to do all the right things, and doing all the right things and trying to be all the right kind of person. I lost all of me. And so that time in the bathtub became when I would wash everything away, and I called it my baptismal. Is that every single day you have the opportunity to kind of wash it all away, to baptize yourself, to be reborn, to start over the next day. And in those times, and when I found myself, is that I realized one morning one night, late night, in the bathtub that I had took the plug out the tub and all the water had ran out. And I was this little tiny ball, balled up in the bathtub, crying, crying, lost my shit, fell apart. Oh, there you go. Thank you, Samuel. And so I'll talk about it a little bit more in a moment here as well. And so I was balled up in this little tiny ball in the bathtub and I was crying hysterically. And all I was doing was just, God, just, I'm tired. Just take me home. Like, I don't want to be here. And I'm not of this earth, is what I used to keep saying. I'm not of this earth. And so I'm like, just take me out. I'm just like, I can't do this no more. I'm tired. I'm afraid. I'm running, I'm scared of not having money. I don't know how I'm going to pay this rent. I don't know how I'm going to live. I don't know. I don't know anything anymore. And during that time, my daughter was also going to be getting married. She had a partner. It was just like everything just piled up. Well, these people, these beings start to come to me. And I know this is going to sound weird, but I have to say it. I wanted to say it last night on my Instagram, and I couldn't get the words out. I was trying to type it, and I just wrote, I have nothing. Because nothing can explain the love that I feel from the essence of the channel. So during that time, everybody knows of my experience with Jesus, Mother Mary. That works with me on a regular basis. That's always in here. Well, this card started to represent these beings that have started to appear. So two different kinds of beings started to appear. One was golden. One is like a goldy, bluey color, like a bluey, grayish, goldy kind of colors, like blended. The other one is all blue. Palladians is what I've come to learn. And I would have these 7 blue people around my bed. And I'm like, this is fucking crazy. But in the bathroom, in my bathroom, I had these ascendant masters stand up, and they told me they were the Lumerians. And these Lumerians were these ascendant masters. And they were beings that were observers of us. And they were observing us. And they said, humanity is a precious gift, and you're a part of humanity. And what you're doing to yourself is not showing yourself the dignity that you deserve. And they would guide me through, and they would guide me the way if I choose to just start to feel loved. And I crashed and burned after that. And I thought that crash and burn was like a total collapse and I was going to be done. I didn't realize that whole time was a rebirth. It was a phoenix moment. It was an awakening. It was an awareness of how valuable we are, how valuable you are as a person. Each and every one of us have such a value to this world, even if you feel like you don't. Even if you feel like you don't, there is somebody out there. There is a purpose for us. And when I was doing the graduation class with my level 1s last night, I remember some of the most important people in my life were not people who were like big social media people that were like big. It wasn't like Tony Robinson and those kind of people. That wasn't who it was. It was the janitor at the school. It was this old man who used to take care of us at the arena. I was a figure skater, and I spent forever on my skates. I probably almost slept in my skates. I figure skated for years. There was this old man, and he was the sweetest old man, and he used to take care of the arena. And his job was to be that keeper of he was no one special to anybody. He wasn't a hockey star. He wasn't, we had all these people, all these young youth that all were like getting big ego and thinking they're all that because you're doing good in hockey. But there was this humble man who would walk around. He would sharpen skates. He would go in. He would go to the hot chocolate machine, and he would make us hot chocolate. And they were those angels on earth. And when you were having a bad day, he would sit on the bleachers and he'd talk to us. And every time he walked in, he knew each and every one of our names. We all mattered. But the world didn't always know he existed. The whole world didn't. But he mattered in the lives of those kids who he touched their lives. And that's the beauty of when you realize that you do matter, and that the gift that's inside of you, the love that's inside of you, has the power to be able to help, even if it's one person. Even if it's one person today. If I had not stood up out of that bathtub, if I had not been on another moment where I was just so ready to go, if I had have let myself go, I wouldn't be here today to be able to do this. There's many people that need us. When you think there's not, It's so crazy how when you fall away from yourself and you get so far away from yourself that you truly believe that you have no purpose, that you have no why, that nothing matters. But when you allow yourself to fall in, so back into the bathtub, I fell into the arms of these angels, into the arms of the angelics, and into the arms of the Lumerian, into the arms of the Lord Jesus Christ energy. And I'm not a churchgoer. I'm not, but I traveled through all of this journey of writing my books. They have taken me through every sequence of the Bible. I can't tell you the things that I have, the journeys I have taken, and all these things I have hidden about myself. All of this greatness that I have that is gifts from out there, I now could cry because I've hid so much of who I am. And I've advertised myself as just that medium. I'm here to just talk to your loved ones. And I'm so much more than that. And that's what you have to remember. There's so much more of you. And when you keep hiding you, or when you keep letting those parts hide, and it doesn't mean that you got to go and become some freaking superstar. That's not what it's about. It's about today, if you walk out and you are illuminating your light, and your light is shining, and you're vulnerable and you're real, you may be the one person today that somebody else sees and says, "Oh my God, you just made my day." And you may be the one who's saving somebody else's day in that moment, or somebody else's life. I've lost a lot of friends to suicide, a lot of friends. When I created that universal light of love card, when she came to me, I had just finally come home. I had just finally come back to myself. And I thought she was going to be in the front of the card because I had that determination. I was going to put myself first. What I've learned by putting myself first was that it's not that you're going to be a number one, not that you're going to be some big fancy celebrity. That's not what it got to do with. Is that you see what you see in everyone else, you learn to see in yourself. And when you see what you see, when you see everything that you're encouraging everyone else to bring forth in themselves, you start to have compassion for you. And so those Lumerians and the beautiful energy that they bring forth to me, and how I've been so gifted my whole life to be so connected. And I'm from the rock, what they call it. I'm from Newfoundland. And my father was he was the man, and I know you might look this up and they might tell you a different story, but that's because my dad's company was stolen from him many years ago, and I'm going to speak that truth. My father was the founding member of the Labradorite, of all this granite rock quarries in Newfoundland. He was the explorer, he was the founder of all that, and then the company was stolen from us. And so our lives from my 20s on have had such a fear story and such a journey through. But I've held 1,000 pound, not held, touched. I've touched 1,000 pound slabs. I've touched granite countertops and walls that would be shipped out. And we also made headstones. So these things that would go into people's lives and would touch people's lives that came from earth, that we have up on earth, that are here of service to us. Well, we're also those things. We take such pride in a tree. It's amazing how many people will tie themselves to a tree to save a tree because the tree matters, but you will destroy your neighbor. Right. And so when you can truly start to see how valuable the humanity is, you start to be able to see the love within. And when you can see the love within you, you can start to see the love within the world. We still have a lot of beauty. We still have a lot of light. And if you look at her golden wings, they were small when we started. And I'm like, no, the wings have to be bigger, because we all have the opportunity to be like an angel on earth. We all have the opportunity to be a good person, to be benevolent, to live a more benevolent life. And so my abilities go well beyond what you see here. I don't share half the videos. I don't share half the channel messages because I don't feel a need to be saying, hey, look what I did. Look what I seen. And look at the message I got that, this is now coming true. These prophecy things that I have, because a lot of it is scary. And a lot of it is not stuff that the world doesn't need no more fear. I don't need to become popular on fear. I need to become a beacon of faith and hope. And if we can all become beacons of faith and hope, we may see a bigger change in the world much quicker than what we would have seen before. And so, this beautiful universal light of love is that love is unlimited. When we think of our world being limited and we think of ourselves having limitations, and yes, we do have limitations, you're not going to be everything that you dreamt of as a child. Like, there's no way I'm going to be a police officer. There's no way I'm going to be a rock star. I'm going to be a singer in a band. And that was actually in my school book. I'm going to be a rock star. I'm going to sing in a band. And because number one, I can't sing. So that is not going to come true. So I'm not going to hold on to that dream my whole life. And I'm not going to think I'm a loser because I can't be that. I have a voice. And when you learn the things when you start to see what is unlimited, there's so many things that are unlimited that we have. Right. And there's so many things that we have available to us. And if we take advantage of what is accessible to us and what is easy to access, then we can start to share that love out. And so she's floating, and you see she's got that one leg tucked. She's at peace. So when I started this and I was curled up in that bathtub, I was nowhere in freaking peace. So when I had to sit next to every one of these cards for the last 44 days, this has been one of the most uncomfortable journeys of my life, just to let you know, because each and every one of these cards they're from the shadows. So each and one of these cards represents where I have been on this journey. So it's been like the best worst journey of my life to have to sit next to my own story and to see myself. And so now that I'm coming down to the end of them, I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to be so sad when this is done. And no, I will continue the mornings. I know Franz, who's not here this morning, asked that. Will you be coming back in the mornings? I love these mornings. I love these mornings as well. So I will be coming back in the mornings. But we're going to validate these cards as well, like I do every day. And so I also want to go back to Franz there. Franz is sharing a link. And this link is truly a place that I think everyone would benefit from. And it is about homeless. And he said, there is a charge, but it's pay what you can afford to pay, so that you can actually watch this documentary or to listen to this conference that is 8 p.m. UK time. 8 p.m. UK time. So that's a 7-hour time difference from Mountain Standard Time. So Samuel, thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate it. And I will be going to check that out. No more hiding. No more hiding. So the bathtub, my home, and in sacred spaces, I hid a whole lot of me, and I can no longer keep hiding. So when I started to reach and connect to those Palladian people, and I'm giving the rest of the message, stay with me here, is that don't hide yourselves. But when I started to get the 7 beams, I always think of my grandmother and her 7 sisters, and I would say there's so much of them that's hidden away. Some of them, nice few of them are still here. So there's so much about them that the world didn't know, and their gifts and how they were so connected to each other. And I'm like, so when this 7 Palladians started to come to me, I started to think, oh my God, like if someone would have asked me if I thought aliens were real a year ago, 2 years, I'm going to say, you're fucking crazy. Like, no effing way, UFOs. But I'm from Buckens, Newfoundland, and I can tell you there has been these lights and stuff that people can't explain. And one of them was actually my grandfather way back, and he was driving back from another town, and this big white light came and landed over his car. I don't know how I remember that story, but I was a kid, and I just remember hearing that story somehow. And I don't know all the story, but he said it was so crazy. And so when they started to come to me, do you know where they took me? They didn't take me out of here, out of Earth. They took me on the journey. They took me to every crossroad. I live in Alberta. They took me to all of these crossroads throughout Alberta all last summer, to all of these old churches that were all built on range roads, they call them. So like off the beaten path on dirt roads. I would not know where I'm going. I would just keep driving. And I would end up at these crossroads, and there would be a church. And the churches was like old Lutheran churches from like back in the 1900s. I could not go inside. It was on the land. There was something that was there. And these ladybugs would come, these golden butterflies, or golden dragonflies. And it was so crazy. And I would take pictures of the churches. When I got home, the images that were in the church windows, I can't deny. I can't deny the face of Jesus looking a bluish kind of color, the face of angels, the kingdom. And there was no clouds in the sky. The sky was blue. There's no way that that could have been. I have pictures and pictures, and I couldn't see it by looking through the human eyes. It's when you zoom in is when you would see it. But something kept pulling me all across these parts of Alberta. And I ended up off all these churches. And then one of my friends messaged, she said, I have this place that you really have to go. And I ended up at this place called the Three Marys. And they are also a Lutheran, it's also Lutheran, but the Sisters of Mary. And so the Sisters of Mary's, and it's a prayer walk. And I started to walk this prayer walk, and I drove in the first time, and I heard them tell me that when you pull in, Corey, there will be one sister in a gray robe, and she will be wearing a cross around her neck, and she will be waiting for you. I went down the beaten path. I pulled in, and here she was standing up, and her gray hair and her soft eyes. And I opened my truck door and I hopped out all excited. And of course, you had to keep your distance because of COVID. And I'm like, oh my God, they told me you would be standing here. And she started to cry. And she started to cry. She said, really? And I said, yes, they told me you would be standing here. And she said that was her sign she was waiting for that day. That was the sign she was waiting for that day. I walked that prayer walk by myself. I cried. I walked it for hours. And then I walked a prayer walk with my family, my daughter, my mother, my granddaughter. I also then walked it with my friend Lisa. And then I walked it alone again. And it was like, and every time I walked, there was something that was there. And it was a whisper. It's in the silence. When you allow yourself to go silent is when you can feel that unconditional love. When you can feel that connection, it's when I could hear them so clear on this journey that the crossroads would always show me the way, that you're always going to be, if you stand in the crossroads, if you stand in the center of the cross, there's a heartbeat, there's a life force energy that sits in the center. If you walk the middle road, if you don't choose a side, if you stay power, which is also the top of the spiral dynamics of the value system, that when you learn that you're not accomplishing nothing by being so hateful of one or the other side, that this middle road is where you can be the most power, you start to be able to see something that you could not see before. And so I'm going to validate this because this is the card that just came out. And so right here, right? And Lisa did that walk. She knows all about this whispers. And so this is the card that I just shuffled and shuffled and shuffled and came out. This is the everyday miracles. This is the she is. This is the last card of the deck. And as I shuffled through and she came out, she is the everyday miracle. She is, or he is your own creation. And we all have the opportunity to become our own creation. Just because you had a past, just because of something in the past, it does not define you. It does not own you. And just because you have a old value system that has been stuck with you forever, it doesn't mean that you don't have the opportunity to change, to look, to gain new perspective. The more that you allow yourself to be open-minded, to listen to everybody, the more clarity that you gain around the value that we have by not being this or by being that. The desire to pull people to that tug of war to each side is of value to the people that have a motive to manipulate society. Humanity is here to be together, not to be pulled apart. And if you can see her heart and see her glow, and yes, she is my truth of my connection to Mother Mary, to Mary Magdalene, to the Mary Bethany story, which is Mary Bethany is the very last stop as you are leaving the prayer walk. And as Lisa and I said on the last day that when we walked together, we looked down and there was a squirrel that made us stop. And she's the one thing that most people just kind of walk past. They get up, they're done. They've walked that long journey. They don't want to stop anywhere else. They go right to their vehicles. But if you stop at that last place, if you stay till the end. And that's how I wrote the book The Way. It was my last visit there when all of the book The Way came to me. The Palladians, the holy, the ascendant masters, the angels. The angels have a language, and I hear the language of the angels, and they speak to me. And they've given me some sacred text in pictures that is in a sacred ancient book that I have never ever heard of until 2 or 3 days ago, that said to me loud and clear, now do you believe us? And so I'm taking this as a truth that miracles happen when we take action steps to walk in those moments. So when we seen the squirrel, we stopped, but it was the squirrel that was the thing that made us stop. And when we sat there and when you looked, so Mary of Bethany washed the feet of Jesus, and people were like, why are you wasting those oils? And why do what are you trying to prove? She had nothing to prove. She didn't feel a need to defend herself. She didn't feel a need to stand up and try to, and even though she felt a little bit afraid, she knew what was to come. So in her way, she was grieving this was her way of honoring and grieving all at the same time. And it was also the way of Jesus who also knew his journey that was to come. And she knew her why. And when you know your why, you don't have to defend your why. And that was the big part of this journey. And that's the big part of these cards, is that when you can move beyond the shadows, you lose all the attitudes, all of the assumptions, the judgments, all of those things. And that's the top of the spiral dynamics. When you know the why, when you stop being at war, when you stop fighting for peace, when you start being more willing to open yourself up, the more that we can start to bring forth the changes that is needed. So in the center of our heart is one of the most powerful things that sits in my home, and it is the cross. And that cross is, I cross my heart. And so I'm not Catholic. I'm actually I'm actually an Anglican, and by baptismal as a child. And Mother Mary does not belong to any organization. Neither does Jesus. And neither does the Palladians. Neither does the Luminaire. And if somebody tries to claim them as like they got a copyright, a patent on that they're the only person that can channel them, that's their big ass ego. Because that's big ass ego that leads you to believe that you're the only person that can ever have a relationship with this energy. And when you start to be able to recognize that the only thing that you own is the stories that you create. You own this essence of your human self. Everything else is out there. And so this beautiful cross represents everything to me. But if you look around her waist, she has a golden thread. But you got to look beyond her hair. Around her waist, there is a golden thread, and it is tied off. And that she knows that she has a human essence, that her emotions can step up, and the emotions can get up there, but there is a point of where she knows when to listen, to know that those thoughts are ego, and that those thoughts, when they take her into an unhealthy place, is taking her away from her truth. When you have a cleared heart, you have clarity. And when you have clarity, you no longer allow yourself to be triggered. You'll always have those things in your body. I'll always have a neurological thing that's somewhat in my body. It's now a reminder of when I have given enough, when I've done enough. And if you can notice, she doesn't have hands. She has lights of gold. And that her hands are hers, and what she holds in her hands and what she does with her hands is hers, but the light is not hers. The light is everybody's. And even the light that she has inside of her, each and every one of us has that. And if you see the roses that are falling, and they're soft peach and they're that soft pink, and they have a peach and a pink on her shoulder, that is the energy of the grandmother energy, the mother energy. And it is the grandmother energy that has been defining for me in my journey of looking into the eyes of somebody who was content and at peace, and who laughed all the way until the day she died. And that was my grandmother, whose name's Pansy. And so that grandmother energy is the Saint Anne. And Saint Anne energy came to me in a storm and took me to Lac Saint Anne and made me walk the walk out there. So I walked the prayer walk here. I ended up driving an hour and a half to get to Lac Saint Anne in a massive thunder and lightning storm and rain running sideways because of the wind. And I walked the prayer walk out there after the pilgrimage was over, the day after, not the when it was happening, when I wanted to go. I couldn't go then. They wouldn't let me. It was after. And during that point, they told me to stop. Stop. Right here, surrender it all. Give it all to us. And into the arms of Mother Mary and into the arms of Lac Saint Anne. They told me to surrender all of my ego. And they walked me to a stage, and everywhere I'd walk, feathers would fall. And there'd be a feather in front of my feet. I was soaking wet. I was crying. And they have the big church area there. And they told me to go to the stage and stand in the center of the stage. And when I stood in the center of the stage, they said, look straight ahead. And there was a cross with Jesus on a post. And they said, right here, stand. Stand right here and look out. And you will speak a truth. And you will always speak a truth to everybody that you ever speak to. And you will stand here. You will stand on these stages. And I had a childhood dream of the stage, and I still don't know what it all means. But truly trust the journey, because your unseen wounds, which is Thecla, which is more roses here today, your unseen wounds, what people don't know, is not, and the more you try to hide the parts of you that you think is so horrible and so bad, and the things that you think you may have done wrong, the more you hide that, it becomes toxic and it becomes hateful energy. It becomes those things. Not that you got to tell the whole world, you got to be honest with yourself. And so let me bring Thecla out. When you stop being a warrior and you stop fighting for the cause of trying to get people to like you, trying to get people to need you, trying to get always known, the more that you can move beyond that, the unseen wounds can be the parts that allow you to become the light of the world for you, to beginning of that creation, so that you can be all of you. And when you become all of you, you drop the swords, and your tongue can be the most lethal weapon in the world, or it can be the most loving thing in the world. And so that tongue, when you drop down the swords, when you stop having an attitude and anger that reflects onto the world, that you keep having a tantrum about getting your own way, you are standing in your own way. If we want to be an inspiration, to the next generations, then we need to make a change and stop being so angry and stop telling the children how awful the world is, how awful people are, and how they should be fearful. And we need to stop raising those next stages of those fighters and people to hate on, like to hate on the opposite sex, or to hate on anybody who got money, or to hate on anybody. And we need to stop spreading that kind of fear, and that they need to be those warriors to take over the world, and that all of these generations are horrible people and we've destroyed the world. That needs to stop. And we need to teach them about dignity for humanity, and about honoring how a soft, kind voice can be a change in the world without becoming an angry creature that is out there with such a hate on, and to hate thy neighbor. Instead of hate thy neighbor, because that's what we've become, love thy neighbor. Love thy neighbor. And I'm living in a city where something horrific happened this week. And to see how a community came together, and how we all light up our decks this week, our lights this week, to show all that we can do is show light and love, because that's all we can do. And there's nothing more that can be done. Because every time that you project out there about take somebody down, or to be angry at somebody, or hate somebody, you don't know what somebody else is feeling in their heart, or how they are taking that word and how they are taking that message, and they take it to be that they got to go cause destruction and destroy, and that you may be a part. And I actually have a channel message about this from last year. Always remember that when you become such a warrior to get what you want, the destruction that happens after, you have that on your hands. And are you willing to carry that on your hands? That what happened after, because you once went into such a rage about getting your way, that when you cause then the after effect, getting what you want, What is getting what you want costing you in the end? And if it's costing more than you can afford to lose, then maybe you should rethink it. And that's such a truth. We are better than that. And that's what the light of the Lumarians, that's what the observers that look in on me, what the Jesus energy, what all of that shows me and tells me constantly is that we have to become a beacon of that light, to learn to get to that crossroads, learn to get to that middle road. And then we can rise up from there. And from there, we can rise. And when we can rise, we can be a change. And by being a change is that we don't have to hide ourselves. We don't have to lose any values. We gain the most valuable values. And that's where the virtues come in. So the book, The Way, that I just finished writing is, I am so glad I stayed till the end. I'm not here to do the work for anyone. I'm here to give what I've been through about this journey and to get all the way to the end, that this is it. This, where I am today. And do I still spend hours in the bathtub? Yes. Oops. Yes, yes, I do. Oh, I'm trying to take down this card. And this was our card of today. And this is the universal light of love. This is Lumarian. And she's at peace. She's allowing herself to fall into the arms of the angels. And she has surrendered it all over. What shall be, and what is. And it's this, that, and then there's a truth. And one side has one version, the next side has another version, and then there's a truth. And you got to be a little more open-minded to listen to all. So, Graham's birthday is today? No shit, Ashley. She's Marie Magdalene. Oh, I love that. We'll see in her lipstick and how she'd done herself up. Ah. Oh, she's dancing on the other side. I know she's dancing. Absolutely. Yeah. How incredible. Hey, so magical. I love the magic behind these cards. Ah. And yes, appreciating the moment. Exactly. Exactly. That other card looks like me. Yeah, a lot of the cards kind of look something like me in a way, or they look like my daughter. A lot of cards look like my daughter, who also looks a whole lot like me, a whole lot like me. And so tomorrow is actually my daughter's birthday. And happy St. Patty's Day to everybody. If I was in Newfoundland today, everything kind of, when I was young, everything used to shut down in Newfoundland on these days. This was a holiday from school. All right, let's see. Right? Your tongue can be a double-edged sword. Yes, it can, right? And it's like, and so those double-edged swords, and that's why I say, like, passive aggressive, that type of personality. When you're angry on the inside, your attitude, you're very welcome, Brenda. Thank you. In the arms of the angels. Yes, it is a beautiful song. So when you're being when you're angry on the inside and you're frustrated and you have this passive aggressiveness of you, and you start to, make up your own little story of what you think people are thinking of you and those type of things, is that attitude comes across, it's such a sword. Like, even though you think you're being nice, it's like, oh, I'm there for you, but I don't want you to think that. But it's like, all of that is such a, that's energy that we do without even consciously trying to. You do want somebody else to feel, because you want somebody to understand you. When you want to be understood, the frustration comes out, that comes out, and then it comes out in the way that you put it in your words, so that you can kind of get to people. You want to get on people's nerves. And it's like, why do we want to get on people's nerves? And I know the channel, when it comes through, gives these messages that really give you something to think about, but that's unconditional love. But it's like when kids, so when you're a kid and all this, you get that identity in the early stages of life. And so when you're starting to get that part of your identity, and you're little, and the second sibling comes along, and you turn against the mother, and you become, oh, I'm all daddy's, mom, don't touch me, I don't even like you. It's like, oh, but I love you. It's that manipulation, right? So kids kids start to manipulate because they are now hurt and they want their, they want mom to hurt because they feel like mom is hurting them because mom abandoned them. Well, in a grown-up eyes, if you carry that story forever, you will carry that abandonment story that your mother abandoned you because you were two and your mother had another child and you didn't get all the attention, and you let that story kind of be the underlying story for the rest of your life, and you carried that. Well, look at you now. Look where you are now in life, and you still have that abandonment story because at 2 years old, a sibling came along, right? And that becomes a part of that identity. And by 7, you have that locked in, and you lock that in. It is not too late to change that. You can change that. You don't have to be locked into that, right? You don't have to be locked into those things. Yeah. And so this beautiful thing, she's keeping the most sacred parts of her, and your divine feminine is worth honoring. Who you are as a woman, the softness, and everybody, even a man, has a feminine side, and that we all have that illuminating light of the divine that she is, of the Marys, of everything out there that's ascendant, that has that divine feminine energy, even Mother Earth. We all have that. And there's a softness, there's a gentleness, there's a lovingness, there's a kindness, and that you can protect, you can give that to yourself and not have to give it all out, but know that you still have enough to give to the world. And if you can see Davina, the card behind me, she truly is about that. When you become all of this on the inside, you also become all of that on the outside. And so the more that you don't suppress and push everything underneath the carpet, and you deal with what you need to deal with instead of pushing it away, deal with it. And you cannot fast track the healing journey. I don't care what psychedelic you take. I don't care what you do. You will fast track, and you'll get this, oh my God, this is what the world looks like and I'm there. Yes, that is what it looks like. And yes, it is that freaking great. But we're not meant to live out there. We're meant to live in the human world. Everything that you are to do for your healing journey is in the power of the now. Everything that I've had to do has been in facing my own self of who I am and taking ownership and responsibility for my own shit, and not quitting. Not because somebody shows up that makes life good, not because you move into a healthy relationship. That means that you're back to depending on the material world to make you happy. And that's all temporary. You've got to be willing to do the fucking work, and you got to be willing to put the work in you. And that's where more than existing comes in. And that's why I don't teach the level 4 and without people taking the other stages of the journey to make themselves a priority, so they know how important they are before they go into the coaching program, before they take the full certification, before they get right there. Because when you get right there, because if once you get a little bit of that stuff, you think you can go fix the world, and you forget about you. And I was there. And because I was there, I now know that journey. And so I am the healed healer, and I still have things, but I'm the healed healer, and I walk in that light now. And so I invite you to also walk in that light. And I can't wait to get these cards out. And I'm in the process. Like I said, I'm about halfway through of writing up the new messages for the cards, but they have 2 messages now. They have an upright and they have a reverse. So what she means, what she is speaking for you today, what she shows up for you in your attitude and for where you are, let that speak to you. And if you look really, really close at the cards, there is some amazing things in there. And when I first seen this card, if you looked really, really close down on the bottom, there was actually the face of Marilyn Monroe was in there. And Marilyn Monroe is one of those people that I've channeled many times. And I know, the truth of the hurt of when you create from a place of hurt and not from a place of love. So everything that we create ourselves to make our shadow self happy, to more than exist in our shadow, will eventually crash and burn. Everything that you start to create from your true self changes your life. But everything that you start to create from the shadow of you will crash and burn, because the foundation is not strong enough to hold you. So thank you for being here with me today. And thank you for everyone who shows up and comes and stays till the end. So if you watch the replay and you've made it all the way to the end, thank you. If I had not have stayed here on earth till the end, if I had not seen myself at the end to start walking towards me to the new beginning, I wouldn't be here today to share this. Somebody else would be sharing my work and telling all about the work that I created while I was up on earth. I'm still here to be able to tell those stories. if you just know the power of staying, because there is light. Walk towards you today. Start walking towards your light of love. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Much love to you all. Now I have to go do some other recordings. So thank you. Mwah. Have a beautiful day. Bye bye.